And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next amazing episode of the StingersUp podcast. I believe we're on episode. I probably shouldn't throw a number out there because I honestly can't remember at this exact moment. But either way, I know we are coming back from a long break, being orientation leader kind of based. I myself was rather busy over the winter, so I didn't really have time for the podcast. I apologize, but nonetheless, after a long-awaited return, the long winter, I am back, and with me, also returning, is the super awesome. I want to say robotic. I just remember our last conversation was very drone based, but returning back to speak with me again and honestly hang out and enjoy the night is David Rosas. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Nice. And David right now is our international correspondent. So he's currently in a very Terminator-looking war zone. There's like robots walking around, so he's not able to turn on his camera.
Unfortunately, the robots got my camera, and it's been rough. The supply train getting supplies out here, not easy.
There's time portals. We've actually reached out to Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he has not returned our calls yet. But no, thank you for joining us and joining me, I should say. I know it's been a quite some time since our last conversation, which also had a couple of tech issues. So hopefully this one will be a little bit better.
Yes.
But your semester is going pretty good. Is it going? Tell me about that.
Yeah. It's gonna be my last semester in my undergrad, and I was. Not that I was behind on units, but I did have to cram a little bit this semester. So I'm taking 17 units, all upper division. I have my writing intensive this semester. Got a lot of reading to do. So,
which one did you take for your writing intensive?
My writing intensive, like a few other majors, is major specific.
Oh,
so I have a core course in my major coursework, which is geography for the viewers who remember, or listeners who remember. So it's our listeners. Senior seminar in geography. Yeah, our hardcore fans who are writing up the wiki pages,
the continuities of the StingersUp podcast. But no, that's cool. So how are you liking the class so far? I know you're probably it's about what is it? We're about like a month into the semester.
Yes, it's I'm struggling a little bit. We are already this last Monday we had our final project proposals due. So it was a little rough. I submitted 2 proposals just in case one wasn't good enough to get some professor feedback, but
why not?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I guess you feel like you're kind of going through a little rough patch on it or whatnot. That being said, I remember my writing intensive, certainly about this point in the semester, kind of felt the same. Maybe with a different assignment. It certainly wasn't the same major, but I feel like a month in, it was right around that time where it's like, why do I have to write so much? And I'm like, oh, that's right. It's called a writing intensive course.
Exactly.
But nice. How are your other classes going? The other 14 units of courses?
Funnily enough, I basically finished off my major last semester.
Nice.
So this semester was pretty much 17 units of filler. Gotcha. I took the opportunity to pick up a second concentration within my major.
Nice.
So I'm taking some additional courses there. But on top of that, 3 of my classes are prerequisites for our Sac State master's degree in teaching and teaching credential program. And I've just actually finished the application up for that on Monday as well. So I had a little bit of a busy weekend. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's kind of surreal having applied to grad school and now just kind of waiting back and seeing what they
make the cut. Is it going to be like the I always picture grad school kind of being like those kung fu movies where to get in you have to have a symbolic kung fu fight with one of the masters or Ip Man. But is it actually something like that? Please tell me.
Yeah, it's actually a rap battle with the department chair. Yeah, and you gotta throw down some bars, and if they like your stuff, yeah, definitely.
It's got to be informative and educational. That's the side measure, the dual measure of it.
depending on the grade you want to teach, it's got to relate to like, either kindergartners or we got the high school seniors. Yeah. No,
which oddly enough are the same rap.
Yeah. No, it was an interesting process. Like I had to get my fingerprint taken for like the FBI and Department of Justice database. I had to get like a tuberculosis shot. I had to do all this stuff to make sure I'm like, safe to teach kids and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good. You don't want to have somebody with TB kind of hack. I was like, I know TB is a big problem in the world in general, but I still have this like, I think of anyone having TB as now being a character from like Tombstone. So I just assume as soon as you get tuberculosis, like the cowboy movie. I don't even know if you're familiar with it, but there was like some quiet silence on the line, but it's like this old time, very good movie, but it's it's an old timey type of spaghetti Western almost. So I just picture anyone with tuberculosis just now automatically like kind of having the old like old timey vest and everything. I realize the pantaloons. Definitely. There we go.
Coughing into their handkerchief.
Yes, their handkerchief. You gotta have the handkerchief. Yeah, you got consumption.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
What they used to call it.
That's right. Consumption. That's funny.
Yeah, which I think is just because you looked like you were getting you were getting consumed by something, which I always thought was a very interesting phrasing for like you have a particular disease.
When I went and got the shot, it was very similar to like when I pass like a police officer or like there's a cop on the same street that I am. It's like, I'm gonna get caught. Like, they're out there looking
even
for me
when you're not doing anything
exactly
wrong,
like I'm a law-abiding citizen. I just got my
something wrong. It'll be right now.
Exactly. And so that's why I got the shot. And I was like, what if I have tuberculosis? What if I've just lived with it my entire life and I didn't know I had this, this disease? But very similar. Results came back negative and all the stress was relieved there.
I mean, it's not too bad. It's mostly just like, hey, do you know I think they like call you back in because if I remember right, it's like an antibody test.
Something like that. Yeah.
Somebody who knows more about it. So I'm like, Chris, come on. But I think it's an antibody test from what I remember. And so it's like folks who've even been exposed to it, but may not have had it themselves. Like you got exposed to it and you had your own reaction and made antibodies will still test positive for it.
I see.
Because I've had a lot of students in tutoring in the past who are from like international students. And for those listening who don't know, tuberculosis is a rather big problem outside of the United States.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to make fun of it in any way. Other than I guess the Tombstone reference, but why I even bring that up is there was a character in the movie who had tuberculosis.
The old timey Western.
Yeah, and he definitely had his handkerchief that he was always coughing. Was it Doc? I wish you'd seen the movie. You could help reaffirm this.
I didn't see the movie, but
okay, we're gonna have to cut the podcast now and then have it.
Have a movie night and then we'll regroup.
Yeah, I'll just segment it together. So we'll just have a pause and then all of a sudden we'll just have more knowledge about a given movie. That's actually not a bad episode idea. But did you know they used to like put people in sanitariums? Or no, was it? Yeah, sanitariums. So it'd be like if you had tuberculosis, you got essentially to go to this like really posh resort up in the mountains and just like kick it in the nice air because they're like, oh, it's super sanitary for you.
Hey, that sounds great.
Yeah, I think we should bring that back. I think if you get a disease, you should get like a free vacation somewhere.
We'll just put all the people with a COVID. We'll just put them in like Utah. Just kick them away from everyone.
I know. I feel like we're treading a fine line here with our wording, but no, it'd be cut. It was relaxing. But I always thought that was a fun fact. They were like, dude, we don't really know what else to do other than I guess we'll send you to like Tahoe and hope you do better. Like good luck. Bring a coat. But that's cool. No, I'm really glad to hear that you're moving forward, and I'm glad to hear even more that you're excited about the grad school and that whole experience. Do you know when you'll hear back from them?
I do not.
On paper.
No.
Let's put it that way. I don't mean to. Yeah.
So far, they've basically said like, "Hey, if we need anything else, we'll contact you." But it's just kind of waiting it out for now.
Yeah. But no, that's cool. So you're just kind of getting all your ducks in order, I suppose, getting ready to graduate, get the big old diploma. So after you graduate, what are your plans going to be? Like, I know you're obviously going to be for the grad school. Are you just going to be going into that kind of full time, like 100%? Or are you going to do a little bit like that and some career work or what?
Definitely. I
If you
hope to work. I hope to be able to work
Yeah.
while I do, continue on with my studies.
Mhm.
From what I have heard and from what I've seen from like sample schedules of students in this credential, it's like 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. Like that's the course load is just it's like
Gotcha.
21 units of grad studies mandatory.
Yeah.
So they basically set you in a cohort, set up your schedule, and you just
Lock
go.
you
And a lot of
down.
that's going to be like in the field. So
Yeah.
like from 8 to 12, I'll be at a school shadowing a teacher
Gotcha.
every
Gotcha.
day of the semester. But if I can find some sort of position, especially in geography and GIS, if I can, that can be flexible, let me work evenings or
Mhm.
weekends, that would be perfectly ideal.
Now, GIS is what is it? Before I make myself look stupid.
Yeah, no worries. GIS is my first concentration in geography. It stands for Geographic Information Systems.
Okay. Okay.
Oftentimes it's paired. It's called GIS or GISA, and the A just stands for like analysis.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I just tell people Google Maps and satellites. Like that's kind of the gist of
I
what
drive
we
that
do.
Google car. It's
Yeah.
pretty sweet. Nice. Yeah, I didn't know if you had like a specific job you were kind of going for, but I definitely understand you're like, I'm going into grad school, and if I can work while I'm doing that, all the better.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. And you'll be doing the grad school local, so you won't really have to, I guess, relocate necessarily.
Yeah, that's going to be really helpful, really nice. Also, because of the entire coronavirus, like affecting schools,
Mhm.
they have extended subsidized loans for school to grad students, which you
Mm,
wouldn't usually get. Once you get your
yeah.
first degree, they're like, "Hey, we're not really going to give you
They're
any
like, bye.
forgiveness," or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I can
Tough
actually
break.
apply for these subsidized loans, and it's a little more forgiving
Nice.
than it would be otherwise.
Well, now we definitely need to cut the podcast early. I apparently have some paperwork I need to do. But no, that's really cool. Actually, I didn't know that I definitely didn't know that myself, and hopefully that'll help somebody who may be listening, one of our
Yeah,
hardcore listeners,
the
um,
lore fans.
the lore fans. Yeah, the Stingers Up wiki. It's pretty crazy. I've seen some pages on there. We should make one and then like
We
start
should
posting animation, like really crazy dramatic illustrations of each episode.
just like episode episode 14.
I think we're
Chris
gonna
goes to
start.
Mars, and then
Yeah. Well, we have to start with the Terminator. The Terminator
oh yeah,
scene.
that's right.
Yes.
The Terminator arc.
Or maybe we should call him something else so we don't get sued.
Yeah, that's
The
fair.
Terminator. I
The
think if we add an S to the end, you're good. Like the Terminators.
Terminators. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
plural. There you go.
I don't know if they copyrighted that. It's America's great. Um, but that's cool. No, I'm definitely excited with you. I know myself, I am in that same boat of I am more or less on my way out. Unfortunately, I didn't get into one of the classes I was hoping for this semester.
Okay.
So I'm slightly delayed, but nonetheless, I mindset wise, I'm like definitely can see, and I'm starting to think of the beyond the diploma, as they say. I don't know if they say that, but they should, because it makes
They
sense.
will now.
Kind of what really happens after you're honestly, yeah, what happens after you get that diploma, what happens
Yeah.
after you get that degree. Um, as far as I'm concerned, at this point, I still have no idea. But no, my goal is definitely to go into grad school and probably follow a similar path of continuing into like honestly becoming an educator,
Cool.
because that's been something
Oh
that
yeah,
yeah.
it's I think especially in orientation or in student affairs in general,
Mhm.
we do a lot of it. We do a lot of educating, a lot
Yeah.
of teaching,
Yeah,
despite
and just
what
help.
our roles might say, like orientation leader or like
Yeah.
peer mentor. You end up doing a lot of education, and that's where I've gotten a lot of the bulk of my experience and where I've kind of learned
Mhm,
that I want
mhm.
to teach and I want to educate.
Yeah, no, and that was going to be my next question is kind of where I suppose you just answered it, but kind of what drove you in this direction and what made you decide to want to become, kind of go down that path. And have you had any other experience besides working in student affairs, which I know is a lot of student experience or experience. I don't mean to like short sight it, but
Yeah. Um Really, I think it began in high school.
mhm,
I think there was a handful of teachers and adults, administrative staff and
mhm,
faculty at my
mhm,
high school that really were great role models for me in my especially later years in high school, junior senior year. I really do strive to emulate them, to be like them. And
Nice.
they've kind of encouraged me to pursue
Any shout outs?
that.
Sorry, go on. I realized I just cut
Definitely.
you off.
No, Mr. Delgado was a
Ooh,
teacher that I did like a service learning trip for a week in high school with.
nice.
Um, Miss Hendry was like a math teacher I had for 2 years. Miss Morris was like my that's kind of weird to say. She's
We
like my
will.
second mom. Like she was like such a great influence in
Yeah.
my life.
I mean,
Um,
in the sense of a role model, hopefully. But no, I know what you mean. Like, just like you said, that general inspiration about life and just kind of striving to be a better person, getting that guidance and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I know what drove me into it. I mean, I definitely get a lot of that, or kind of it reaffirms it. Working in student affairs, working in orientation, that's part of what drove me to be an orientation leader, was kind of
Hmm.
being able to help folks and give them that advice and just kind of provide that guidance and assistance. But I
Absolutely.
know. Oh, go on.
No. I was just agreeing. I
Oh,
was
okay, yeah.
definitely.
But I know I kind of got my first taste of it, of the education, if you will, working as a tutor, where I started off on the gig. I was kind of like, oh, this would be a fun thing. After, like, I took a chemistry course early in my degree, and the professor just honestly needed a tutor for next semester, and I did fairly well in the class, and so got an A, humble brag. But I did fairly well in the class, and the teacher was like, hey, Chris, you interested in coming back and just kind of getting a couple hours next semester and helping out students. Um, and kind of was like, cool, I'll do it for extra change. Like, what's
Yeah.
so hard about talking about chemistry? It's actually fairly easy, but that's a like industry secret right there. But no, like, I really enjoy what I do. So I was like, okay, what's so bad about talking about something you like, right?
Mm,
And then, yeah, that first semester I did it, and you get that first aha moment where you see someone's, like, the light clicks, and they're like, oh my
yeah.
god, I get it. And you're like, I love this job is
Yeah.
amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so like gratifying. You feel so great at the end of the day if you walk away and whoever you're helping, fully and even if they
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
understand, you walk away with this drive to like improve yourself and become more accessible in your teaching methods and like
Yeah.
in,
You're like,
the way
what
you
could I have
speak and
done?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Or you're like, man, it's their fault. They should have wanted it. No,
Totally on them.
but
Yeah.
I've definitely had those where you're like, especially if it's a question where it's like, oh man, I legit don't know the answer.
Mm,
And then you'll go up and, like, I know I've done this before. You're like, I'm gonna look that up. You'll do what you can in the moment, but you certainly look at it, be like, okay, I'm gonna spend like 30 minutes checking that out later on. So the next time somebody asks me that question, I'm like, tell you what, got your
yeah.
answer. Yeah,
I learned it. I figured it out.
I learned
No,
it. I Googled
yeah,
it.
I also really like the structure that school provides. It's
Nice.
like an 8 to 5 kind of, not necessarily in that time frame, but like
Yeah.
at least for high school, it's like very specific. You got your different classes during different times. You got your
I see what you're
lunch.
saying. Yeah, yeah. Like, as far as a job goes, type
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, yeah. Plus, get the summers up. Like, that's honestly a great selling point that I think
Oh yeah.
ropes in a lot of folks. Is like, yeah, you get the summers off. Sometimes you get paid. Sometimes you don't. Kind of depends on where you work. But either way, it's like, ooh, 3 months out of the year, I could just
Yeah.
kick it.
Oh yeah.
Um, nice, nice. So, but that's cool. I'm glad to hear your semester is going well so far. Mine is going fairly well myself. I am certainly on the other side of the unit load spectrum. So, I am taking about 14 less units than yourself right now. So I'll let the math majors do the numbers
Oh
on
yeah.
that, and it really just comes down to, I only need like X amount of like really just 2 classes for my degree. Um, so I all my heavier semesters are thankfully behind me. I probably should be a little more proactive and kind of do what you're doing and get some prereqs out of the way for future programs. Um, but just kind of the circumstance I'm in of being a little bit delayed just because I couldn't get into some of the courses has kind of unfortunately delayed my graduation date. So the summary of that is, since I'm not quite sure when I'm graduating, it's honestly kind of messed with me applying for grad school.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is a terrible excuse now that I'm saying it on the air, but nonetheless, that's kind of where I've been at. But I really need to
It's
get on it.
valid. It's a valid
Yeah,
excuse. I
it's
mean,
um, but yeah, no, my plan is definitely to get on that and kind of honestly, I need to find a good grad school to go check out.
Hmm.
So, David, find one right now. We're gonna make that the rest of this
just
episode is Chris finds a grad school. But yeah, so I'm taking 3 units, so it's very lenient, let's put it that way. Granted, the course I am taking is sort of a capstone course with the biochemistry program, so it does have its own, it's not, I don't want to
you
say
can't just like sit back and relax.
it's not like one of them, it's not like one of them easy 3-unit courses, quote unquote. But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of extra work, which is totally fine. It's justifiable for the class and level that it's at, but it keeps me busy enough, let's put it that way. But otherwise it feels oddly smooth sailing, like more than I'm accustomed to, because I'm very used to like the 15-17 unit course load where you kind of are like stressing from day to day. And now I'm just like, all right, today I have class, tomorrow I do not.
Yeah. Just like Friday afternoon, you're like, where did all this time come from? I have nothing on my schedule.
And then it's like, it's the ideal schedule I would have loved for in person, right? Because then you're like, oh my God, yeah, I have so much time to just hang out on campus. Now I'm just like, well, this is interesting.
Sleep for the 5th time today.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what's on Netflix today?
Yeah.
Or general streaming service. I don't know how much like company names I can say, but maybe it's like public use.
Yeah.
You can use it. So I know both of us also went through we just completed our winter orientation of 2020. Is it 2021, I guess, technically? Because it happens during the January.
Yeah. 2021.
But that was a crazy time. How do you feel about the orientation overall? How was your...
I had some
days?
good
I feel like
days.
I never get to see anybody during those times. They're like, we're all so hectic dealing with our own groups of students. Again, justifiably hectic and busy. But I feel like I never really get to see some folks, especially in the virtual format.
Yeah, with Zoom, there's not a lot of like, hallways to pass by.
Did you survive the winter is a better question.
Yes, I definitely had some pretty scary days there. Yeah. I always like telling orientation leaders that haven't done winter, or just in general orientation leaders, that winter is the time where you're training from ID 197, which is our introduction to engineering or orientation.
Introduction to
our like engineering course.
We trick them. You're actually all engineering majors now.
No, but that's where all of our training kicks in during winter, is because you have all of these like crazy scenarios and situations, and you have 18 students to deal with, and you have 10 minutes for each student, and it's just, that's kind of the culmination of all your experience and all of your training in orientation. So it's always fun to put it to use, but it's always stressful.
It's like end of the day, kind of like we were talking about earlier. End of the day, you're like, wow, that was great. I helped a ton of people. Hopefully, I felt really productive, but in the moment you're like, oh my God, what I would do for just 30 minutes of just, let me catch my breath. I mean? Not even a break. Definitely. Just let me catch my breath real quick. For those who are unfamiliar with the whole orientation, are like, why do they care about winter orientation so much? Compared to the normal orientation, just to put it in quick terms, you generally get a lot more or just bigger group sizes, I should say. Maybe I shouldn't give a lot, but you deal with bigger group sizes, and the whole 10 minutes deal is we try to give all incoming students a little bit of our own time. So, trying to fit all those that giant group size into the time of the day can sometimes be hectic, because we want to make sure everyone gets that prime information.
Oh yeah.
But nice. I'm glad to hear you survived it. Yeah, like I feel like I've seen folks since the winter, but like you said, being virtual, it's like we don't see each other, in the hallways or in the morning. We have those, our meetings with the staff throughout the week and such. But it's crazy. I'm glad you survived it. For all I know, folks could just have a terrible time. We'll never know. It's all virtual. Hope they survive. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you survived. Clearly, you're here.
Yes, yes. No, and don't get me wrong. I don't mean to like talk bad about winter. It's always just like a crazy time. All this stuff is like condensed into like a week. I feel like it's the summer, but just condensed down, because summer orientation, we have those like 2 months to go through. Winter is like, all right, now go.
Go. It really is equivalent to like summer courses versus winter courses.
Yeah.
Like in the summer, you got a couple weeks. It's still kind of rushed, but you got a little time to relax. Winter, it's like, don't blink or you'll miss it.
Yeah, and even with like the last day of orientation, like those last groups, it's like you feel like you're practically like, all right, and your classes start tomorrow. Yeah. So good luck. Welcome to Sac State, and email me if you have any questions.
Yeah.
But no, that's cool. That's cool. So I'm definitely glad you survived it. I definitely survived it myself, or I tried to. I think the update in my own personal technology since the summer definitely helped. I don't know. Are you using a laptop? What kind of computer do you use to do orientation on?
Yeah, once kind of the pandemic started, I finally, um, checked off my bucket list that I built a computer. I built my own computer. It's kind
Nice,
of hard to find
nice.
parts though. I feel like everyone was doing
Yes,
it.
yes.
Um,
Yes, I definitely will shamelessly say I was in that group too. Of like, well, might as well get that computer that I always wanted to make and have for myself. Um,
yeah, and it took a couple months to get everything in, but
yeah,
that's kind of me for tech is like I built my own little computer. It's nothing super fancy, but
yeah.
it's better than a little laptop. I can say that much.
Yeah, my laptop I feel like got fried during the summer. And not from the heat necessarily, like, the temperature, but just like Zoom is very intensive, or probably just any sort of camera program where you're going to be, telecommunication where you're running it all day. Like I
Oh,
know at the end of the day my poor laptop would be like, "Can I just take a break?
please shut me off,
Please
please.
shut me off. Why are you clicking on StarCraft? What are
Yeah.
you doing?" And you're like, "I want to game." Um
No YouTube.
yeah,
Just
no
sleep.
YouTube, please. Can we do YouTube with just the audio? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I want that video. But yeah, no, I definitely in between the orientations upgraded myself. So I'm running with a oddly very similar situation where it's not a beefed up computer, but definitely more custom than what you'd buy off the shelf. Um, and so this orientation felt rather tech, like definitely more comfortable on the tech end. Let's put it that
Hmm.
way. Just because
Cool. That's great to hear.
I didn't constantly worry about my computer just blowing up.
Overheating and melting. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you go to type something and you put your wrists on like the essentially where your kind of hard drive is for, or the
Oh
CPU is
yeah.
for your
Third degree
computer.
burn.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, this is not good. And you're trying to keep a straight face because you're working with the students and everything. So,
Just memories of getting into a hot car in the summer, like the seatbelt buckle. Just like
oh
that's the
god,
feeling.
I had my car towed one time because I was a stupid student when I started off. I was trying to choose my words carefully. I was definitely an idiot and parked where I shouldn't have. So this is all on me. But so I went to go get my car from the impound yard. Thankfully, I was able to get it in the same day, which is always the cheapest. Highly suggested. Don't
That's
wait if you
good.
have the option. But point being, I remember getting it back. Definitely cost money, but that I did not want to spend. But either way, I'd been sitting in the sun like all day at the impound yard. So that
Uh,
steering wheel was just like lethally hot. And you're like, oh my God, I just got my car back. Now you're like, well, let's just hang out for a little bit and let it cool off. And you just hang out at the impound yard for a bit.
we'll
Uh,
throw some cookies on the
just,
dash and
yeah. Does
we'll
anyone have any eggs or maybe a hamburger they'd like to warm up? Both are valid. We got a large hood going right here.
definitely.
So,
Speaking of cars, just
uh,
quick
yeah, yeah,
aside.
yeah, yeah.
A couple weeks ago,
All the sides are valid.
I had my yeah. I had someone like broke into my car.
Oh no.
I'm kind of laughing about it now,
I mean, that's
even though
good.
it's like it's not
I mean,
like
that's the ideal, right? After it's like we all want to laugh about a tragedy
yeah,
later.
definitely.
But go
At
on.
first, it was like I was just like not having. It was just not my
You were
week.
not laughing the day
Yeah.
off.
But basically, yeah, they didn't take anything. Like that was kind of the silver lining is they weren't there to steal. They were just there to Hulk smash their way through the neighborhood, which was, I mean,
I wonder if there
the
was like another
better of
car.
two, the lesser of two evils, as
Uh,
they say. But also like, why? you
but
know,
yeah, are there other cars that look like yours in the neighborhood? Like, is there
you
like
know,
some really rich guy who drives a very similar car to yours
not
and
that I know
keeps a
of.
ton of jewelry in it? And
Yeah,
they're like,
keeps
this
his.
is David's
Uh,
car? Man, we thought this was like
we hit
Mr.
the wrong
Banksworth's
corner.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my particular corner has been pretty I don't want to say lethal for cars, but we get a lot of windows smashed on for some reason. I'm pretty sure it's some hooligan teenager in our neighborhood because like
Yeah.
even we had like a U.S. Postal Service van get like broken into in the middle of the day. Again, didn't steal anything, but it was just
Sounds
a little
like it's
suspicious.
the postal guy, and they're like they broke in their own car just so they could be like, look, they got
it's not.
me
It couldn't be
too.
me.
It could
Yeah,
be
couldn't
me.
be.
Why would I do this? Nothing got stolen though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That sucks to hear. Don't get me wrong. And sir or madam, if you're hearing this, or other pronoun, if you're hearing this, stop breaking into cars. But I'm glad nothing got stolen. What a bizarre thing. I feel like that just almost is to mess with you, because then the whole time you're going to be thinking something must be stolen.
Right.
Like who would break
They
into a
took
car
something.
and not steal? Yeah, it's they probably just like moved things around. So you're going to find like a pen in your glove box that you're like, I thought I'd put this in the other compartment. I don't know the names of them.
An inch to the right, like
Yeah.
my lucky toothpick is gone or something, you know.
They were perpendicular before. Why are they parallel? This can't be.
Yeah.
My Metallica CD was in CD slot 3, not 2. I'm old school. I have a CD changer with multiple slots.
Well, that is pretty old school.
Yeah, so that would be a big thing for me. I'd be like, this is what's going on. So, fun fact: if you want to mess with Chris, just change around the CDs in my car, and I will my whole day will be off.
I always wanted one of those because it was always such a hassle to. I used to drive like an old old truck, and I would have to switch out the CDs. But it always seems so convenient.
It actually kind of is. I mean, what would be more convenient, I guess, if I splurged and actually got myself like a hookup for my phone or whatever. But yeah, it's very 1990s convenient. Like that's all I always like to say is like, yeah, man, I got my 6 CD changer. I am the coolest guy on the block right now. Like, you want to listen to that other CD? I got you. Like. And it saves where you were. Not really.
You don't even need to go for the CD case. Just
we can go through 6 whole CDs before we got to worry about that CD case. Oh, that's
I've also heard
CD,
about them failing though. Like I've heard a lot of issues of like, well, not getting that one back. It's now stuck in my car's dashboard somewhere.
Definitely heard about that, but then again, I feel like I've met enough folks without the CD, just the regular old single slot CD who also have the same issue. So I think that's just a CD player issue.
Yeah. It's like the socks in the laundry machine. Like they'll just go somewhere and
yeah, I always say like definitely anytime you put a CD in your CD player, especially in your car, you're like you better really like that CD just in case it's the one CD you have to listen to forever. Yeah, I had one like that in my other car. I can't remember what it was. It was some like I used to work at a bar. And so I had like a lot of local band CDs. You know what I mean, like they'd come through and they'd be like, oh, here's like some samples that have like 5 songs on them. And you're like, yeah, I'll give them a shot. Why not? And I think like one of those got stuck in my my car. So Ghost Town Rebellion, if you're out there, I loved your music because I listened to it a lot. I had to.
I had no choice.
I had no choice. And thankfully it was actually a pretty all right CD.
That's cool. That's cool.
It wasn't like some of them where you're like, oh God.
Just like Irish polkas and like tap dancing.
This? Yes, you're like I can't find a trash can fast enough right now to throw away this CD, but yeah, 6 CD changer. That is the high life these days, especially during COVID. It helps keep you healthy. Being able to change those CDs keeps you free of disease. So yeah, are you playing any games with your beefed up computer? That was immediately the first thought that came to mind. You're like, well, actually, I was like, nice. I like where this conversation's going.
Gaming PC.
No,
not in particular, or at least nothing that's really using it to its.
I mean, that's totally fine.
Max potential. Like I can't really. I'm playing really lately. I've been playing a game called Genshin Impact.
Okay,
I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
It is an open world RPG.
Okay.
Gacha game. So I don't know if you're familiar with like gacha games. They're
it's
typically
not like gotcha, like they make you do something silly and they're like gotcha.
Yes, sorta.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I don't know if that's the meaning, but basically it's like gambling.
Okay.
You through missions or whatever you're doing in the game, you earn in-game currency, which you can also purchase with real-world money.
Gotcha.
And you use that to basically spin spin the roulette wheel and see if you get a really good character or a really good weapon or whatever. So
Okay.
and they're like abysmal rates. It's like you get 0.6% chance to pull like a 5-star character, and then out of
Gotcha.
that point, if you do hit the 0.6%,
I mean, that kind of makes sense, I suppose, because you want to, I guess, that 5-star character to be valuable or whatnot.
Yeah. And they're making like millions. Like this company was like a very kind of I'd say like middle of the rung in terms of like
developers or
development
whatnot.
and like yeah. But when this game came out a couple months ago, it just took off, and now they've made tons and tons and tons of money. And I've watched loads of videos of like content creators who've just like dropped thousands upon thousands of dollars trying to
just to get something. You got something that rings them in, hooks them in. I could definitely believe though, because they're probably just like, well, we went to a casino. People love throwing money at those. I know anyone I've known who has like a like any type of gambling app, even if they're not playing for real money, sometimes they're just like, oh, I play with digital currency and I just kind of play for the fun and the sport. It's still like, oh, but man, like I'll get really crazy and reckless with that digital currency. And they're always like, man, it's a good thing it's not for my real money, because this would be a rough week for my bills.
It really feels like they were like, okay, we know we can get people hooked on gambling. How do we get the gamers hooked on gambling? And it's just like,
no, I was gonna say, and
cool weapon.
You give it like, and you could do something with what you get beyond just like it's monies,
right?
You get a cool weapon. But that's cool. How old is the game?
Game came out in, I want to say like October.
Okay. So it's
September,
fairly recent,
October,
yeah.
Fairly recent.
Since it's after the before time, as we'll say.
Yes. It was post before time.
PBT.
Oh, but it was pre the now times.
PBTPNT. There we go. Yeah, these are things now, folks. But learn them
on the wiki.
Yes, we rewrite time. But that's cool. That sounds oddly addicting. I know I've been playing what is it called, Valheim, which is like this new also open world. I guess it's kind of an RPG. I feel like all games are RPGs, but depends on how you want to look at it. But yeah, it's definitely an open world type of thing. It's kind of got that feel of Civilization, or maybe like Diablo, in the sense of you don't control the whole thing. You're definitely like one character, but it's randomly generated worlds. So like you'll go in and you could like, oh, I'm gonna make some world. You give it a cool name. You'd be like, I'm gonna call this world Sacramento State.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say it for the podcast. But you could like make something and it'll look like a certain way. Rivers will be doing something. You might find like a cool waterfall, and then you could make another world or whatever, and it'll look completely different. And so it's cool. It kind of has like that fresh sense to it, and it's a very I call it like the like Legend of Zelda plus what's that game where you build a bunch of stuff? Fortnite. As you can tell, I don't play Fortnite. I'm like, what's that game that kids play? Like,
I think I just saw it was like a YouTube video, or it's like a TikTok of a guy playing Valheim, where he was like, what's at the edge of the map? And he's riding this boat. And it just falls off the world.
I believe it. I'm like, I don't even know. I haven't even thought of that yet. That's a good. We have to cut this short now. I have to go.
I thought that was hilarious, because he's just like, well, we don't know, and then his boat just falls off.
Yeah. So it like came out like probably less than a month ago, maybe a month ago. It's fairly new, and it's like so new that I think it even says like, hey, this is early access. And like, even when you're in the game, you hit pause and it's like, hey, do you have any feedback? Like, please help us make this game.
Please let us know.
Yeah, please let us know. And so it kind of has that feel of like, I don't want to say game in development, because that sounds bad, but yeah, it kind of has this feel of like, okay,
that's
maybe
fair. Yeah,
it doesn't have all the polishing details, but it definitely has like all the mechanics down to where it's got its, I don't know, I've heard it described as like a chemistry engine, like things will interact with each other, and it's a very survival type game where you could be like, you really just get plopped in there. It's all Viking type lore.
Hmm.
So it's kind of got like this sort of Norse feel to it, which, you know, you don't really have to be into it necessarily to enjoy the game. But it's all like, oh, hey, like you just get dropped in the world and you want to make like a cabin. Well, you got to go cut down some trees and get some wood. And so you can like
Sounds like a lot of fun.
yeah, no, and you kind of progress through, like, I kind of say like you almost progress through the various ages, if you will, like wood age, bronze age, stuff like iron age. So like right now I'm in like the bronze-ish, so like a lot of my time is probably too much of my time is spent like looking for like the right metals to mine to make all the stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a time sink addicting game. So you gotta be careful about that. But it's pretty cool because yeah, you kind of progress through like the different technologies, and again, it just kind of plops you in the middle of this map, and you're just like, go explore.
I guess I live here now.
Yeah, and because it's always a little different, you're just like, what is around that corner? Like, where does this river lead? What is that giant mountain? I'm getting attacked. What's happening? Yeah.
No, those I love replayable games like that where you can do everything, but the next time you open up the game it'll be different. The next
yeah,
time
I mean, you can
kind
of save it, because like another like aspect or facet, if I want to be all fancy, use my vocabularies, is being able to like build up different things. So you can be like really creative. Like I know the other night I again probably spent way too much time like messing around, like building some cabin, because it has like a really I don't know, a really cool like system for creating and building different things. So like that's half thing. I was like, oh man, go like look at this giant forest, and there's like rocks and trees around everywhere. So you could just like go crazy with making a whole world that's yours. And so you could like save it and then come back and keep working on that project. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you're like, well, I kind of want to make something, and it's also multiplayer, so you could like bring in a buddy and be like,
I was about to ask, is that a multiplayer game? Because that sounds like a lot of fun, especially with friends.
Yes, it actually is. It's pretty fun. I was playing with my buddy last night. He's the one that got me into it, so he was like, dude, let me show you how to make all this stuff. But it's pretty cool. You just drop into this world, and just like I said, it's kind of like, hey, you live here now. It doesn't really like tell you what to do. Like it kind of says like, yeah, here's some of the mechanics, but it's not like, hey, go and do this. It's just like, I don't know, have fun, man. Like if you just want to walk along this river, go for it. Like here's the first boss ish. He's kind of over yonder. But hey man, he's in no rush. You're just like,
just hanging out.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, yeah, cool. Like I guess I'll go after him eventually, but like I got a cabin to build, bro.
See, in games like that, I really appreciate when they have really complicated systems to create, buildings and infrastructure. I will always opt for the square hut and just like exist in that. But I love seeing people who are so, I guess architecturally inclined that make really, really neat things, or maybe they use parts in different ways that they're not supposed to be, illegal building techniques, as you might say.
Yeah, no, this game's pretty good about not letting you do those things, because I definitely tried those where you're like, I played ones where it's like, hey man, if you want to just have some floating piece of floor or whatever, like it's a game, whatever, like have fun. But this one's like, no, that's not going to work. And if you try to do that, like it'll let you build a little bit, and then things will literally just start crumbling, and you're like, no.
Oh, that's cool.
So it kind of has this sort of like mechanic or engine built into it, where like stress and weight. Like that's the only way I can really equate to it. Where it just goes like, hey man, too many planks stacked on too many planks.
That's neat though. Like, hey, we're all about Norse mythology. You might find some goblins, but we stick to our physics.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. Like right now, one of my challenges is challenges. These are all just like stuff I've decided to do because I don't have too many units. It's like I'm trying to make like a bridge that goes over like this span of water, but you also have these boats that you can make. And a big part of it is like, just hop on your boat and go use it for exploring. And so I'm like trying to figure out how to make like some bridge structure where I could run over it, but the boat can go underneath it or above it. Second possibility. Kind of like an under the water little rare
Yeah.
type deal because it's very, very but either way, it's like it's pretty cool because you have all these like, how am I going to get this done using all the pieces they give me, because it's very like you build things like wall, like bit by bit, kind of like what you're talking about. You can be really creative with it. So it's not just like, oh, you go and click build house. It's like,
Right.
well, how do you want to make it? Like my buddy hopped on and he made like a completely different house than I made. I was like, you call this a house? Come on. But no, you can just like make it however. I was like, come on, this is for amateurs. But no, you can be like really creative, dangerously so, in the sense that it's very easy to, just like with Civ, lose a whole day's worth of time doing that. But it's pretty fun. Yeah, as long as you can control yourself like that, have some discipline. I would highly recommend it, even if just so I can show
I'll
off
definitely look into that.
And it's only $20. That's probably the best selling point.
Ooh, not bad, not bad.
It's like a $20 game and like 1 gigabyte of space on your hard drive. So it's like got all the best things. So highly check it out. If anything, just then you could like see my cabin and somebody could see all the hard work I've been doing on this digital world. That doesn't.
Here's my dissertation. It's in Valheim.
Yeah, I'd be like, do you guys know how many roads I've built by hands, keyboard and mouse and everything? So yeah. So how's the? I don't mean to get too much on like a video game tangent. I know I've been probably dying to talk to somebody about that game today. So unfortunately, you are the unwilling, unsuspecting victim of the Valheim craze. But I would highly check it out, especially for anyone else who's also listening. So I believe last time we were talking about your drone operations and that whole side. How are things going on with that?
Pretty well. Can we take a quick break? Can I use the restroom really quick? Sorry.
Yes, let me.
If that's possible.
And we are back. We are back. As I mentioned, David had to go take a quick human break. Which in the Terminator time zone, war zone, can be quite dangerous and perilous. So, one has to keep their eyes in all 8 directions. But
only 8.
Only 8. Once you go to the 9th, you start slipping a little bit. You can only keep 8 directions going. But no, welcome back. I know. Myself, I always drink way too much coffee.
Yeah,
I feel like when I'm sitting at Zoom, so it always kind of feels like that road trip feeling where you're like, all right, I gotta pull over. This is happening.
Yeah.
Where's the rest up? But yeah, I think I was asking about. I got all like distracted looking at news articles during the quick break.
You were playing Valheim again, weren't you?
Yes, yeah. Well, no one listening to the recording will know how long the break was. So we could always act like it was like years. So like 2
It's been 2 days.
Either you could bust out the SpongeBob voice. Yeah, it's been 2 days. But yeah, no, I feel like I had a question that I was going to ask previously, and then I got all distracted and stuff. But I guess I'll just ask, what else you been doing with your time lately? I know it sounds like a lot of time you've been dedicating to school and kind of getting ready for the post graduation life, which again is very understandable. That's kind of what the usual culmination ends up kind of being at this point in the game.
Yeah, a lot of school. Half of my classes are asynchronous. So for those of you listening who don't know the difference between a synchronous and an asynchronous class, a synchronous course is one where you attend that course online during a specific day and time. Mm-hmm. Whereas an asynchronous course you would take whenever on your own free time. You would submit the
YouTube style
assignments. Yeah, there you go. Just whenever you want. You just watch the professor's like pre-uploaded lectures. And do the assignments. So I do have quite a few of those. And
do you? I feel like I don't mind synchronous, but I feel like I don't ever take really good notes during synchronous like lectures, or even just during the lecture at the time. Like I'm always trying to pay attention, but I feel like I'm not the same way that I am in person, where I'm paying attention and I can write down notes. So I feel like I'm either going to do one of these or the other when it's on Zoom. So I'll try to pay attention, and then I always end up having to go back and rewatch the lecture at 2x speed.
I'm the same way. Yeah, I feel like if I know it's a recording, I'm not as
Yeah.
I guess I don't
"Oh,
feel
it's
as
recorded?
bad.
I'm out."
Yeah.
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 We turn on Valheim.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's kind of, so I guess what you were saying, like half of them are asynchronous and such. I kind of cut you
Yeah,
off.
so I do still have a bit of free time
Mhm.
because I could just catch up those classes on the weekend or whenever.
Gotcha. Just fit them in
Um
wherever you want to. Yeah.
yeah. As for like things that I've been doing, I've been, this semester I've tried to get out of the house a little more. I've been
Nice.
going to the park. I've been playing tennis
Oh,
every week.
nice,
Um
nice.
yeah,
Do you
so
got like
that's
a
been
group
great.
you play with, or is it kind of just like pick up tennis?
I hit the ball very slowly and I run to the other
Oh, there you
side and I
go.
hit the
There you
no, I'm
go.
kidding. No, I
I mean, you could find like
actually
a wall, you know what I mean, and kind of do like bounce and
oh yeah. That makes me so sad. like,
it's
like
the things we
trying to
have to
play
do.
a two-player game by myself. No, but yeah, so in high school I played tennis
Oh
on
wow,
the varsity team for 3 years.
wow,
So
that's cool.
my partner who I played in tennis
Uh huh.
and we still we go out and we play.
Gotcha. Nice. That's super cool. I
Yeah.
did not know you did that. What stopped you from playing tennis, or like why don't you? What stopped you? I'm trying to use that. I don't want to make it sound bad. Yeah, I guess what stopped you from playing it in a more organized manner onward? If that makes sense.
um
I'm not trying to
hmm.
make it sound bad. Like,
It's kind of like a High School Musical story. I went from jock, not really jock.
so
I
this
was
is
never
going to
really the
include a
jock,
song.
but I went, yeah, no, literally, I went from playing tennis to from freshman to junior year in high school, and then my
Uh-huh.
senior year I did musical theater.
Oh,
And
okay, got you. Literally, it's a
very
musical
fun.
theater story.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
got you, got you. I thought it was like an analogy to High School Musical. Yeah,
Oh
okay,
no,
okay.
it
I'm
was sort
interested
of
to
an
see where this
analogy,
is
but
going.
quite
Yeah.
literally musical
Yes.
theater. I am Troy Bolton. No, no, but yeah, that's why I kind of stopped playing tennis,
Mhm.
and theater was great. Met a
Yeah.
lot of great people. Made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Um, and then going into Sac State, I just wasn't as interested. Like my first
Mhm.
semester, I think it was my first or second semester, I took like a theater class. I was thinking of minoring in theater.
Mhm.
Um, and it just tennis never really not that it didn't stick. It's a sport I do enjoy. It's an activity I
Yeah,
really
I
do
mean,
enjoy.
obviously, you're still playing it
Yeah.
and stuff. Like, you keep in touch with the tennis partner, which, you know, certainly shows a level of dedication. Though I realize you guys could talk about things other than tennis. I mean, it's like you guys can only talk about tennis if
Just
you guys
tennis.
communicate. Um,
He's like, "Hey, I heard about this game called Valheim." I'm like, "No,
you're like,
just
bro, I
tennis."
don't even care. That doesn't sound like
Yeah.
tennis. Like, this is
No.
non-tennis material.
It's also very like I'm not good. Like I cannot stress enough that I'm not like at a even like junior professional level
Fair
with
enough.
tennis,
I mean, you're probably better than
especially
me,
being like
but yeah.
almost 4 years out from playing
Mm-hmm.
tennis, like in weekly,
Got
if not daily.
yeah, like that.
But
The getting the reps in per se.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like riding a bike. Like you don't really lose it
Yeah. No,
as
I
much.
could see that. I mean, it's definitely good that you're still doing it, and even more so that you have somebody that you can kind of like regularly play tennis with. Because I imagine, like, I could see some folks who might be interested in, maybe if it wasn't tennis, some other type of sport. Like, I know I play paintball. I'm kind of in the same boat of like, I have this sport that I like to play, but it requires people,
Mm-hmm.
and right now that's kind of hard to find. Especially if you don't like have a group that you already play with like regularly, that you're kind of, I guess, down to be in their bubble
Right.
with. Like, paintball's a little bit more close contact at times, so it's harder to do that, like social distancing.
Mhm.
Tennis, not so much, I'd imagine. Maybe if you're on
I
the same side, but if you're just kind of playing against each other, I'd imagine it'd be fairly easy to keep distance.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Um, I I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the paintball like parks aren't that common, right? Like they're kind of few and far between.
I mean, it's kind of a weird question, or like a weird answer. So for most of America, yes. Sacramento is like this weird. We got a ton of them.
It's an
So
open carry city. No, I'm
yes.
kidding.
But yeah, open carry paintball. But that'd be if we had like one afternoon a year where it was like that, that'd be fun. Maybe
It's like the
a little more
purge,
terrible.
except it's
Yeah,
just
yes, but
paintball.
paintball. It's very innocent. That'd be awesome. No, I'm
That
down.
would
I'm
be
down.
really
I changed
fun.
my answer. But have you watched Community?
I love Community. I was
Yes.
just gonna bring it up.
Yes, I was just watching those episodes the other day, and
Oh man, the
I was
paintball
laughing because I
episodes.
know one of the guys on that episode there's like the tire gun, but there's like some other like actor who you could tell like I'm like, dude, that's he legit has his own gear. Like they don't highlight it, but you can see like, nah, he's holding it right.
Right.
But no, there's a fair amount in this area. Like I know there's one right off of Florin, kind of in like the South Sac area. There's another one out in Davis, and like those two are pretty big. And like even just right there between those, that's a pretty good selection. Like I know I've seen on the online forums, some folks are like, oh, and the closest paintball park I play at is like 2 hours away. You know what I mean? And you're like, man, I thought my 30-minute drive was a pain.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool. That's
but
good to know.
but yeah, in this area, it's actually pretty nice, and maybe that's just because of like I guess where I'm kind of located. But I'd say honestly, just living in Sacramento, there's just a strangely good selection within the general area, type deal.
Good to know. I have a friend who's into airsoft, so I've been airsofting with him a few times.
Nice.
I've only been paintballing like maybe 2 or 3 times, but it's very fun.
Yeah, I love it and I miss it. I played once last year. I wish I'd played more. Had I known everything was going to go down, I would have like tried to squeeze in a whole bunch. But like, I went kind of around this same time last year, so it was like right before everything went down. It was like,
okay,
it's February. Let's bust out the equipment and get it all going. And then it was like, oh
and then
man,
lockdown.
yeah. And then I was like, well, let's put that away. Because a lot of times you're not necessarily right next to the opposite team, the enemy team, if you will. I always try to make paintball sound less aggressive for some reason. Like I don't want to, like I feel like I'm scaring people about it. But yeah, like the enemy team, like, you're not usually up near, but yeah, it's not uncommon to be like right up on your teammates, hiding behind some piece of cover, and you're huffing and breathing, and so it's like everyone's like, oh, but we got masks on. I'm like, yeah, with giant holes in them.
Yeah.
And you're all sweating. Hey, bro, like, where are they shooting us from? You're like, I'm good. I'll cross that off my list for this year. Like, I miss it. I wish I could play it, but
paintball in like full PPE, like hazmat suits.
Oh my god, I've thought about that too. Because I'm like, well, what if I wore my mask underneath my face mask? Because the paintball mask isn't really like stop you from breathing and stop you from getting like hurt in the face when you get shot, which definitely happens. The first time that happened to me, I was like, thank God I had that mask on. But then I was like, I don't know. I envisioned some sort of like a heat stroke happening if I had like my mask and then the other mask and just like,
oh yeah,
like, and that's not
Definitely.
really how I want to die. So I opted against it.
There are worse ways.
There's also better ways.
Definitely.
Than like, hey, you remember that guy who like kind of just passed out and died playing paintball stupidly? I'm like, yeah, he was already out when he died. Like it wouldn't
we have
be cool
gone
either.
0 days since the last accident.
Yeah, yeah. They're like go and changed it. They're like, like the old numbers all paint covered. The zeros all fresh new. It's like, darn it, guys, come on.
We were doing so well.
Come on. Yeah. But he had his mask on. How could things have gone wrong? Oh my god, I've been shot underneath my mask before.
Ouch.
Not on purpose. Like it makes it sound like somebody came up and was like, bro. But it like, I got a big old face, and sometimes those face masks are kind of designed for the slighter faces, as I like to say. And so, like most of my face is protected. Don't get me wrong. Like I prefer that. I definitely don't want to go out there and feel like I'm going to lose an eye or a tooth. But
Ouch.
So I'm always like, is it good? Is it good? And usually like I'll put it on and then kind of like give myself a light bop on the face, just make sure everything's good, and they got cushions, so it's kind of nice for the most part. But yeah, like one of them was it wasn't quite covering my jaw line, like the bottom of my jaw itself. Makes sound all like chiseled my jawline, but no, it was like a little part of my jaw like wasn't quite covered, and something just happened to hit me like right there, and it was like I thought somebody came up and like slid into me, and like I thought a teammate bumped into me, and I was like looked around, and you don't see anyone there. You're like, what just happened to me?
Like, you taste something, you're like, dang it,
God.
it's paint.
The taste of paintballs makes me not miss paintball. It's like playing paintball makes me miss paintball. It's I think chalky would be a nice thing. It's like this like it's like this bitter, tangy. I heard they were worse like back in the day.
Just like lead paintballs.
Real old school. You literally died if you tasted it. But no, I think they used to be like fish oil based. And so they not only like did they stink, but I heard like the taste was just like, ugh.
Oh, I can imagine.
You're like, no, I'm out, I'm good. But now they're like propylene glycol. They're definitely better. They don't smell as bad, I'll tell you that. But the taste is like not one that folks generally enjoy. I try to go out with like a stick of like straight up juicy fruit gum. Like I'll try to go out with like the sweetest thing I could have and just keep, like chewing on that. That way when you inevitably get shot in your grill and like the little splatter goes through, you're not like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I've definitely walked off the field trying to like keep your mask on while you're like spitting out on the ground. You're just like, ugh. Somebody.
That reminds me of the scene from Community where they're like, oh, you've been shot, and he's like, oh no, and he's like, oh, it's just blood. I'm just bleeding. It's all good.
Bleeding. I've had those days too. You're like, what's this? It's just I'm actually bleeding.
It's not red paint. I'm still in.
It's not red paint. Usually you end up bleeding from like, I always get like pinched, like
it's,
things.
It's pretty high impact, huh? Like sliding.
Like you usually
things,
you usually end up getting injured from like the things you don't expect. Like everyone thinks like the paintballs really injure you, and like that you can get a little bruised. And I've definitely been hit in more sensitive areas than I would prefer, which has made me question my gear choice. But either way, it's like the paintballs really aren't too bad. I would say it's like a little welt and a bruise, and the longer you play, the less you usually get because you kind of get more smart about like don't leave yourself out.
Right.
Like I always say, as you get better and better, all the bruises just end up on your arms, like because those are the only exposed things. But you definitely usually get banged up just like the sliding, you're crouching down, or like it's a hot summer day too, so I've definitely like before I had knee pads that I would use. Like kneel down and it's on like hot gravel and you're like, oh my God, my knee is not having a good time right now. And you're simultaneously trying to avoid these little like,
and of course, like
flying at you, and you're just like, oh my God.
The paintball bear that every park has,
the paintball bear.
Yeah, they just the party bear. No,
I don't even know. I'm like, but I like this idea. I like where this is going. But yeah, oh God, and it's like especially in like this time of year too, when the rains have just finished up and you go to like take cover, and there's like old paintballs and it's rainy and muddy, which isn't too bad. If you're going out, you're expecting to get dirty, but you're just like, and you take a slide.
More cinematic, but at the same time more fall hazards.
Yes, yeah, it definitely makes it look way cooler. So if you get like that photographer on the side, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna be like YouTube famous today. This is gonna be amazing. Yeah, I've definitely made like a slide though when it's the rainy muddy season, and like you think you're gonna slide from point A to point B, maybe that's like a 4 foot distance, then you end up sliding to point C, which is actually 20 feet away, because like
in the middle of the open clearing,
or just way off, like out of bounds. You're just like, bye guys, I'm out of here. And you're like, all right, I'm out of here. Yeah, it's a hoot. That's what I like to say. It's a hoot. I do miss it though. I'm hoping, I don't know, maybe if we can get like orientation vaccines, maybe we can get back for the summer, play a little paintball.
That'd be awesome.
Where do you go play airsoft? Do you guys have you guys just like go out and play in the woods, or
out in like Folsom, I think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know there's also a place on like Power Inn, which is also in like South Sac, off Florin area. So it might be the same place.
A lot of industrial areas in South Sac. Yeah. It's good. Yeah, because like all paintball parks are always just like in some random spot. You're like, I I feel like I'm either gonna be robbed out here or I'm gonna have a great time playing paintball. But yeah, I didn't know if you went to an established thing because I know airsoft can be a little easier to get away with, just kind of like playing
Goofing off
in the backyard because like
Yeah.
paintballs make a lot of noise. Kind of sounds like a nail gun, you know, and it obviously leaves
Yeah.
a bunch of like a mess. So it's very obvious like people were shooting paint around here. What's going on? What's that on my car? Versus airsoft can like be relatively harmless to like
Yeah.
objects, you know, relatively. But I feel like you get injured more in airsoft. Like there's more opportunity from injury, or maybe it's just like my YouTube perception. Which could be
I would
wildly
say
different.
honestly, paintball is probably more, at least in my experience, paintball is more painful and more
Fair enough.
aggressive. Like a lot of the airsoft pellets can just like bounce off your clothes harmlessly.
Mhm.
Even if it's like point blank, it could still just depends on the angle, depends on how tight your clothes is. Like if you wear baggy
Yeah.
clothes, you're not gonna feel it. But it does
Yeah.
sting. Like if you get hit in the face or on the hands, arms, can draw blood.
I think that's what I'm basing it off of. Is like I'm seeing all these like thumbnails and pictures of like some guy who gets, you know, like,
Just
oh, I was just
knuckles.
wearing, you know, I was
Yeah.
just wearing my cool Oakleys during paintball and I got shot in the face, you know, and
Oh,
like they have
yeah.
like a BB stuck in their lip and you're like, that looks terrible. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like there's also more of like a theatrical element to airsoft. Like there's more of like the get dressed up, you know what I mean?
You
Whereas-
get a lot of like ex-military or like people who want to be in the military.
Yeah. Like I remember going into an airsoft store also in South Sac. South Sac's getting like the hits today on this episode. But yeah, I remember going out there and it was like really cool. Like don't get me wrong, a lot of the airsoft guns are like I love the detail. Like I'm definitely
They're realistic, you know.
I can
cool.
appreciate it. I want to say too much, but yeah, I can appreciate the detail and like the realism when it comes to like the mechanism. And like, oh, cool! Like they took that extra length to make it look realistic. Like there's obviously things on it that let you know it's fake and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got like that nice feel, and I was like, oh, you know, if it kind of feels cool, if you feel like you look cool, you'll probably have more of a fun time playing the game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's that much more. Sorry, I have like this cushion on my seat that is never comfy, so I feel like I'm just like shaking around the whole time. But yeah, I feel like there's much more of that, like the dress up and kind of like I don't want to say get the like the play soldier because some folks are like ex-military and they're like, oh well, this is down to do this. Whereas paintball is more of like I feel like it's a much more like a skater crowd, and they're just like, whatever's whatever. Like it's cool. Like
Let's send it.
Yeah, you always end up hearing like Green Day and like those early 2000s rock at any like lunchtime. You're like, and there we go. But yeah, it's cool, bro. Like everyone's just wearing like their backwards beanies underneath, or the backwards like hats underneath their mask and stuff. But that's pretty cool. It's good. It's cool that you do the airsoft. I haven't really played airsoft in a while. I think the last time I did it, we did like a zombie. It definitely wasn't an official place. It was a zombies game that we did out in the middle of the woods, where it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You have a bunch of folks pretending to be zombies, and then you have like I don't know 2 or 3, like a small portion of the group, depends on how many came out. I think you had to get from like point A to point B without getting like zombified.
That's cool.
It was cool, except no one wore safety equipment.
Just
so
Frosh Night ideas.
yes, there we go. I know everyone's going to be. I heard somebody. It's probably Joe Rogan talking about it, but my buddy Joe Rogan, he was talking about. He's like, once we come back from COVID, it's going to be like the Roaring 20s. Everyone's going to just be like, life is amazing. Let's just do all the wild stuff. Like everyone's just going to be really into like base jumping and crowd surfing. I don't know why those are the most 2 extreme things.
Jet skiing and everyone's just gonna do dangerous things.
This is David and Chris's list of exciting things. We're like, I don't know, jet skiing and stuff.
Hang
gliding, jumping, things that involve parachutes and stuff. Yeah. We'll do that one. But yeah, I'm interested to see. Even if it's just for selfish reasons, if I want to go back outside and enjoy I really miss the movie theaters.
Definitely,
I think a lot.
It's a big one.
I'm a big movie guy, and I'm one of those weird folks that like puts my phone away and watches a movie. So
What?
I know it's
I'm
weird.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Like,
No,
I keep waiting to get arrested one day for it. Like, sir, you don't have your mandatory screen out. But I really miss that experience of going to the movies and like, yeah, I know everyone's got like the big screen TVs and stuff, but I feel like it's totally different. Kind of sitting in there, you get the more or less dark room, like the crazy speakers that make you feel like your lungs are going to explode.
I mean, for me, it was like the popcorn and the, you know.
Oh yeah, and then like that whole the atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
Nice. What's something that you really want to do when I don't know, when we can kind of get back to a relative normalcy for society? I feel like everyone has like one thing they're like, oh, I can't wait to do this.
I don't know. Honestly,
Fair
movies
enough.
is a big one.
You're like, I'm actually just gonna stay inside. It's pretty comfy right now.
I think the biggest one I can think of is Dungeons and Dragons. I have not played. Well, we've been playing online, but my party has not met in person since.
Oh
like
man,
March of last year.
How long have you guys been doing that?
We've been playing for I think 2 years now.
Okay, nice. That's super cool.
And
That's super cool.
The same campaign. It's been probably like a year and a half. Yeah.
God, I want to say? I feel like somebody was talking about you playing Dungeons and Dragons. It might have been Miriam. Yeah, I'm like, I feel like this is like having a deja vu moment. I'm like, I feel like somebody told me about this, but no, that's really cool. And I can imagine how you'd be like, oh my God, I can't wait to get back to person, especially having like played for so long, being able to meet up in person. I'm sure it's been like really crazy shifting that into like a virtual setting. Cause I know the couple of times I played Dungeons and Dragons, it's very, I guess, theatrical, you know, and that seems like it'd be kind of hard to do, or there'd be different obstacles with a virtual setting.
Definitely. I mean, it is a role-playing game first and foremost, so there's so much. You're limited a lot by the technology you have. Like some of us don't have a camera, or some of us have like a really bad microphone, and so it's like it's really restrictive. But at the same time, there's also a lot of benefit of doing it online. Whereas before, we'd have to like hand draw out maps where we can put our our figures on. Now we can just use online materials.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and like music and like all this background, very easy to do online. So it's
nice. Dang it, David, you're making me want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
It's fun. I do miss rolling physical dice. But it's also really cool not having to worry about like modifiers to your dice rolls, or like,
or like, hey, I don't really believe you rolled a 5.
Right.
Like you're like, no, I swear, I totally did.
Exactly. It's like, no, I can't fudge my rolls anymore. I can't say,
So you guys use like essentially like a random number generator type deal?
A lot of websites now, especially for D&D, other role-playing games, they have tools on their websites that allow you to roll specific number of dice, or
like a
however
stylized generator.
Yeah. The actual Dungeons and Dragons website. So like the Dungeons and Dragons is owned by a company called Wizards of the Coast, who are also the company who does Magic. Magic the Gathering, the card game. But they have a website that's really robust. It has like character sheets and like all of their content, all of their books, and all of their, everything like is
all their content
virtually available.
Nice.
And you can actually roll straight from your character sheet. So if your character sheet says like you have a sword and you roll a d20 plus 8, you add 8 instead of having to add 8 manually. You just click on it and it'll roll it and add 8.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I'm like, I suddenly like connected everything. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. So that's pretty cool. So that way you don't have all these like conflicting, or like, I don't want to say conflicting, but even just keeping track of the paper. Like I remember playing Dungeons and Dragons, you'd be like, oh my God, I had that page with the whatever notes from last session. Like my buddy was really into decapitating things. So I was the dungeon master. So I was in that role of like, heck, whatever, roll for it. If you roll higher than a 3, you got it. If it's lower, your sword broke. Work on your technique, bro.
You decapitate yourself.
Exactly. But he'd be like, oh, we killed a skeleton. He's like, can I cut its head off? And I'm like, well, I guess there's nothing in the rules that say you can't.
Yeah.
Go for it. So yeah, I remember like he's like, dude, where's my where's my heads? And I was like trying to find some like post-it note that I was written down like 2 heads. I was like, God, I'm about to make like a rule system for this. Like, I guess they all
Yeah.
have weight, blah blah blah. Like, but I do miss the storytelling aspect of it the most.
Mm.
Like, because I remember like during my off time, like when we weren't playing, I'd be like trying to think of like cool adventures. Like what would be a nice background or like a story behind an adventure. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's a crypt with like a undead knight in it or something like that.
Yeah. It's
So,
very much an outlet for imagination and creativity. It's really
yeah.
great to be able to meet consistently with a group of people. I mean, we haven't met in person at all, which sucks because I miss them. But also, it's great to just like catch up with them every week or
But
every
you
other
have
week
met with
when we
them
play.
before though.
Yes, yeah,
So, yeah.
and
So
a
at least
lot of
you
them
have
were
that.
actually old orientation leaders. We
Oh, okay.
all
Yeah, so I
kind
definitely
of
have heard about this. Okay.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like the fabled
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
orientation
say. This is
D&D
like
crew.
some mythical thing where I've heard
Yeah,
whispers and rumors in the
yeah.
streets. No, that's cool. So at least like you have that versus being like, oh, I tried to play Dungeons and Dragons with like a group of folks who I've never met before, and we're trying to do this all online, which
Hmm.
you don't necessarily have that same dynamic. Um, do you do any like other tabletop type games?
Um, I've we've tried.
Maybe one that starts with a W and ends with a Warhammer.
um, I'm very interested in trying Warhammer.
Yeah.
I know there's like a steep curve to learn it and also like get into it. Buying the figures and
Yeah.
painting everything and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
especially these days. But yeah.
But we have played a couple of other ones. One of them is called Vampire the Masquerade, which is like
Okay. Yeah,
an
I've heard about that one.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that in like middle school, but it's basically like your edgy, like you kind of said, like 2000s bands, like goth emo kid game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's just you're a vampire and the setting is in the real world. So we played in Sacramento and my character was actually a professor in the nursing department at Sacramento State. And like it was really cool. It was
David, do
really
you know
involved.
something about the nursing department that the rest of us should know?
I can't talk. I've been compromised.
Yeah, I can't share anything on there. That's funny.
So that
No,
one's a fun one.
yeah.
And then another one we play is called Monster of the Week, which
Okay.
is kind of like a 1980s kind of cryptids role playing game where it's a lot more simple than Dungeons and Dragons. Where
Uh-huh.
in Dungeons and Dragons you have like strength and athletics and dexterity and like all these stats.
attributes. Yeah.
Yeah. In Monster of the Week you have like tough. It's literally called like tough, and you have
Okay.
3 tough, or like 3 cool or 2 weird. So it's very simplified.
Yeah.
And you just go through solving mysteries and defeating
That's
monsters
cool.
like Bigfoot and like sirens and like
Nice.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I haven't. I wanted to get more into the tabletop aspect of Warhammer. I'm definitely really into like the lore and like the books and admittedly I'm more of a 40K sci-fi kind of guy, but still Warhammer. I mean, for those who are not familiar with Warhammer, essentially anything you can find in the Warhammer, which is more of like a medieval fantasy, you can find like a space version in the 40K. So like, hey, the normal Warhammer has orcs. 40K has orcs in space.
Orcs.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm down. Like, hey, you like elves? Check it out. We got space elves. We give them a different name, but they're essentially space elves. And you're like, sweet, okay, I'm down.
Just take anything and put space in front of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Space Marines.
Yeah. We have
space
normal
ghosts.
Marines in space there. Space Marines. I wish Space Ghost was involved in 40K. Sadly, that is not. But yeah, I wanted to get more into the figures, which probably now is not the best time. I've heard Games Workshop, the associated company, has like raised their prices and stuff.
Oh no.
But yeah, gotta get that sweet figuring money. But I think what I've wanted to do was get like just like one, like a couple of characters, not really to like play with, but I know I love the whole even just like sitting down and painting them. Because like you get your pieces and they all come in like the sort of gray color, and then you sit down and custom paint them. So like your pieces are yours,
Right.
so I always
Which is
like
so cool.
Yeah, which I always wanted to just get like, I don't know, like a little squad of little Marines and just kind of paint them, and maybe not necessarily have like a full set or like get into the full game, because you gotta then find other people who play and set time
Yeah.
aside and have these all tables. But I really love the whole like artistic aspect of it.
I'm convinced that once I am an adult with adult money, I will get into Warhammer, especially 40K. It looks really cool. It looks really fun.
I feel like you would have to have adult money to the level where you're like, I have a house with a whole spare room.
Right. It's like
Because
the Warhammer room.
yeah, exactly. Because I know like a big thing isn't just the figures, but you got to get like,
The terrain
the
and like the
terrain and
buildings and
all
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
and just even have space to like almost like a pool table. You want to have space to walk around the table and not have it tucked in the corner or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I know that's a really really cool like universe. I don't know how you describe it, that I've wanted to get more into.
Hmm.
But yeah, mostly just due to financial reasons haven't. I know a guy did like a show and tell or whatnot in oddly enough my writing intensive course. We were doing a lot of writing that day. But he like had some show and tell, and it was like probably something that you're into or something that represents a hobby. The whole class was about leisure, so it was very related to time off. Dope writing course if I suggest it for anyone. But yeah, he brought in like his own Warhammer like pieces,
Oh, wow.
and I like lost my mind. I was like, oh my god! It was like girls from the '60s when they see the Beatles. I was like, oh my god! And I just thought it was like the coolest thing. Granted,
Yeah.
he had like a faction that I didn't quite agree with. I was like, bro, you play as demons, like we got problems now.
Yeah.
But
I respect it, but also demons.
I hate you. But no, it was
We
it was
are
really
rivals
cool.
to the death now.
Yeah, inches my desk away from his.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, ma'am, professor, I need to move.
I
Can't
need to be excused from this class. I'll take a WU and
yeah, I'm just gone for the whole semester. But yeah, so that's cool. I'm glad you're doing the Dungeons and Dragons, and like it's always great when I don't know, hearing about like just the stuff that people do that if they're able to still kind of keep doing it into the pandemic age. Such
the after times.
Yeah, the post before time. Yes, yeah. I guess it'd be the after times would probably be once COVID, like once we're
done.
kind of back.
So it's the now times.
Yeah, it's
the dark times.
Yeah, I think we're in the dark times. Like if this was like a history class, we'd currently be in the dark ages right now. Which I guess means the Renaissance is next.
Is coming up. Hey,
is coming up. It's coming up. Just mark your calendars. Get your hats ready. Get your violins. But all right, my friend. I think we've put in probably a good hour and a half. I know you included the 2-day break.
2-day break, yeah.
That we took. Which in the Terminators, gotta add the S movies. Sometimes time gets a little distorted, so it's understandable. We had to go find your cool guy sunglasses and leather jacket. But no, it was.
Gotta find a non-singed, non-destroyed jacket.
I don't think those exist in the
probably
timeline.
not.
They're all. I remember that movie very well. They were all like messed up in '80s. Like, if anyone hasn't seen Terminator, go watch it. I think it's free on YouTube right now, which is not all of them, but the first one.
Not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was definitely. Thank you for taking the time to come hang out and have our chat about everything that we talked about, which I feel like was literally everything. It was good to hang out with you again, Dave.
Absolutely. No, it's always a pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
Of course.
And hope to be on again sometime.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get you back. Thankfully, this time we didn't have direct tech issues. I guess besides the whole Terminators.
Right.
I'll try to resist from getting too far into the lore, but darn you, Skynet. But
I'm in the future. Don't worry.
Yeah. So there's timelines. There's gonna be somebody who's like
Sarah Connor
has never seen. Yes, there's gonna be somebody who hasn't seen Terminator. They're like, what are they talking about? So in the year, no, it was good to have you on. I'm glad we didn't have any tech issues like before. It was good sitting down, and I certainly, as before, would love to have you back on the show again some other time.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Awesome. And to everyone listening at home or whatever device you may be listening on, people on the move, running from the Terminators like our friend David is. First off, watch your back, watch out for those Terminators. And most importantly, on top of all that is, last but not least, Stingers Up.
Stingers up.